Part 11. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongde Aishang. Chapter 101. Holding Yayu's clothes, Yang Nian reluctantly boarded the plane to Einsborn. 1 year later will be the day when the Holy Grail War begins, and Sakura will naturally stay in Einsborn's castle with Ilya. Will my sister and mother be okay? Finally looking back at the land of her birth, Ying asked in a daze. Don't worry, they will be fine. They will take refuge in the countryside when the Holy Grail War begins. That's it, then, Dad, will you become his enemy? As Ying said this, her voice softened. Now Yayu has become her father, and the person in her mouth is naturally Tosaka Toki. For the ignorant girl, perhaps hatred means not knowing anything. She is just confused as to why her father no longer wants her and wants to give herself to others. She didn't understand anything Toki Tatsu Tozaka said. The girl only knew that she had been abandoned. Don't worry. Even if the Holy Grail War fails, as a master, nothing will happen. Just quit this game as soon as possible. Yayu said this and showed a smile that comforted the girl. Well, it's best this way, otherwise my mother and sister will definitely be sad. Ying lowered her head as she said this. The implication of the girl's words was that the man had nothing to do with her anymore. Because she is no longer a child of the Tosaka family, but an insignificant outsider. Now she is Yayu's child and the heir of the Ye family. Well, if this Ye family really exists. Yayu muttered, and as the plane slowly flew together, the two people left Fuyuki City. There are still 10 months until the Holy Grail War officially begins. Hayed was slightly surprised that Yayu actually brought a girl back to Einsborn, but after knowing the girl's identity, Hayed couldn't help but smile with relief. The other party is a child of the Tozaka family, which means that before this war began, Einsborn was already on the same front as the Tozaka family. Of course, everyone in the Holy Grail War is an enemy, but at least in the early stages, the Tozaka family and the Einsborns have the possibility of joining forces to fight against the enemy. Everything is ready, and all that needs to be waited for now is the holy relics that will be transported to Einsborn. When you get the holy relic, you will definitely be able to draw the strongest card, which will definitely increase your chance of victory. It is impossible to say that Hayed did not have much hope for Yayu. In fact, he was more anxious than anyone else. Yabustaka Hayed. Feng. Einsborn. Since inheriting the position of the 8th generation patriarch, he has lived for almost 2 centuries through continuous extension of life. Leading the Einsborn family from the Holy Grail quest to the Holy Grail War. This old man has suffered from the pain of failure since the Second Holy Grail War, so for him, the anxiety in his heart when facing this third opportunity is extraordinary. It was precisely because of this that he chose to recruit foreign aid. If it weren't for Yayu, the one who settled in Einsborn 9 years ago would have been the notorious magician killer Emi Yakiritsugu. It can be said that the current existence of Yayu is the last trump card played by the Einsborn family, which has always been proud of its pure blood. For this reason, they did not hesitate to change their family's creed for the second time. Of course, Yayu didn't know everything. He was not going to win the Holy Grail for anyone. He didn't care what Hayed's long-cherished wish was. He only wanted to win the Holy Grail to protect the important people in his heart. Yayu also vaguely felt something. If he failed in this Holy Grail War, neither Irisville nor Ilya would have any good results. There is absolutely no way to fail, no matter what method you use, you can't lose in this Holy Grail War. That day was getting closer and closer, but just when the holy relics were about to be transported to Einsborn, an accident happened. Yayu and Irisville accepted the call from the Patriarch in a hurry and rushed to Einsborn, the most magnificent and darkest place in the ancient city sealed by ice, the Chapel of Einsborn. This is certainly not the place to praise God's grace and find peace of mind. In the city where magicians live, the so-called prayer hall refers to the sacrificial room where magical rituals are performed. Therefore, when I looked up at the stained glass above my head, what was painted was not a portrait of a saint, but the long history of the Einsborn family, which was wandering in pursuit of the Holy Grail. Among the three founding royal families, the Einsborn family has spent the longest time on the Holy Grail. Seal themselves in the frozen mountains and stubbornly cut off any contact with the outside world. They began to search for the miracle of the Holy Grail almost 1,000 years ago. But their quest was fraught with setbacks and humiliations, as well as painful countermeasures. These situations go back and forth to no avail. Finally, he began to despair of pursuing the Holy Grail alone, and had to establish a cooperation agreement with external magic families such as Tosaka and Matu 200 years ago. In fact, the noble Einsborn looked down upon these secular magic families at first, but sadly, the Einsborn have now fallen to this level. The old magician Haed, who is the lord of Winter City, is waiting for Yayu and Irisveal in front of the altar. There is a problem. The holy relics that were once searched for in Cornwall were robbed on their way to Einsborn. Haed said with a heavy face. The impatience and rage revealed from the depths of his sunken eye sockets were not ugly. The old man in front of him was already so angry. This group of dirty thieves actually resorted to such tactics before the start of the Holy Grail War. Damn it, if things get like this, it will be too late to find new holy relics. The so-called holy relics are the objects used to summon servants in the Holy Grail War. Most of them are things used by the heroes they want to summon during their lifetime. Of course, it is possible to summon without a holy relic, but this way the summoning will be more random, and it is also possible to summon a very weak servant. Therefore, the theft of the holy relic is now a very serious matter, and will directly affect Einsborn's results in this Holy Grail War. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai. Chapter 102. Is it too late to find new holy relics? Listening to what Haed said, Yayu frowned slightly. He also knew very well what the theft of the holy relic meant. All in all, this was not good news. Looking for holy relics is not such a simple matter. I have been preparing for that item alone for decades, but in the end I got an advantage over others. As Haed said this, he sighed helplessly and got out of the trap at the most critical moment. One can imagine the old man's mood. Could it be said that this time the Holy Grail War will be regretfully missed again? Although there is no other way, if we don't have the holy relic now, we can only summon it directly. Indeed, but in this case, the randomness is too great. Haed sighed helplessly and looked at Yayu. This time the Holy Grail War, the possibility of winning may be very low. That damn thief who stole our Einsborn's holy relics. Damn it, even if Yayu cannot win this Holy Grail War, the despicable villain who stole our sacred relics must be cut into pieces. What exactly are the holy relics prepared? Yayu frowned slightly, and Haed sighed and continued. That is an unearthed cultural relic from an era 1,500 years ago. It is a relic of King Arthur that has been preserved as a conceptual treasure, King Arthur's scabbard. It is said that the scabbard can heal the owner's wounds and stop aging just by wearing it on the body. Of course, the premise is that its original owner provides magic power. It sounds like a really good thing, but it's a pity that it was taken away. Yayu said this and shrugged helplessly. So who did it? Did he leave any characteristics? The person who did it was ruthless. If I read it correctly, it should be the magician killer. Haed narrowed his eyes slightly as he said this, and Yayu also showed a thoughtful expression. Emi Yakiritsugu, maybe this man is really his biggest enemy in this Holy Grail War. Just this move now made Einsborn fall into absolute passivity. That guy seems to have joined the Matu family and is participating in this Holy Grail War as the adopted son of Matuzukan. He stole our Einsborn's holy relic, so we will let him appear first. Even if you serve as a spearman for the Tosaka family, you must make that despicable villain pay the price. I see. Yayu said this, and Haed sighed again. He seemed to have aged many years, and left here a little decadently. Then Yayu and Irisveal also returned to their rooms. There is no holy relic, what should I do now? Not only Haid, but even Irisveal also looked gloomy. The loss of the holy relic meant that this time the Holy Grail war might have no chance of winning. Sacred relics are not limited to things used by former heroes, right? Yayu thought of something and said to his wife. Yes, but it stands to reason that the closer it is to something used by a certain hero during his lifetime, the greater the possibility of summoning him. For example, if you use King Arthur's scabbard, you can basically summon King Arthur with 100% certainty. Then what if things from other worlds are used as holy relics? Yayu asked curiously, and immediately an inconspicuous staff appeared in his hand. Since coming to this world, Yayu has almost forgotten this thing. Thinking about it now, it seems that my coming to this world has a certain connection with this thing. The power of the nameless flame at the last moment was able to kill me, but it was absorbed by the staff at the critical moment. Then when he woke up, he came to this world, and the appearance of the staff in his hand also changed somewhat. It still looks like an inconspicuous short sword, with a triangular arrow at one end and a twisted heart shape at the other end. If this thing looked like anything, Yayu still had a little impression that it looked like the hands on a bell tower. What is this thing? Irisveal also looked at the thing in Yayu's hand curiously and asked strangely. I don't know either, but this is something used by gods. Maybe it can summon gods. Just use it as a holy relic. Yayu said this jokingly, and Irisveal nodded lightly. With this look, it seemed that she could only place her hopes on this thing that she couldn't tell what it was. Maybe, this thing can bring me a surprise. Yayu thought as he looked at the small and inconspicuous object in his hand. Naturally, he will not give up on this Holy Grail war like Haid. If the summoned servant is really not strong enough, the worst he can do is go into battle himself. After all, heroic spirits are just heroic spirits. Can they still have the power to reach heaven and earth like gods? No matter which magician they are, their long-cherished wish is the same. Around a miracle, in order to obtain this miracle, people bloodily kill each other. Their calls to the heroes on the other side of time and space are now ringing across the land at the same time. There may be only one person who is different from them. This person does not belong to this world and is just a passerby to this world. Yayu was checking the completion of the magic circle painted on the chapel floor. Haid, who had already given up on himself, did not appear again. It seemed that Yayu was doing whatever he wanted. In the eyes of this old man, there was no hope of winning the Holy Grail war this time. What kind of servant will be summoned? Irisveal, who had been guarding her, said to herself, and raised her head to look at the holy relic placed on the altar. This originally inconspicuous pointer-like scepter was exuding the same magic power at this moment, just like the pointer of fate. Irisveal's eyes blurred for a while, and at that moment she seemed to see the devil's smile. This thing, what exactly is it? What will it summon? Okay, basically there is no problem. After checking the magic circle, Yayu clapped his hands and stepped back several steps, and then the look on his face became serious. Then, announcement. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, BasedonanAnime. Chapter 103. Compared with the omnipotent cauldron Holy Grail that can grant all wishes, the method of summoning heroic spirits and the magic circle drawn are really crude and unbelievable. But this is also normal. After all, it is not the power of the magician that summons the servant, but the power of the Holy Grail. The existence of the master is just a link between the heroic spirit and this world, and then provides him with the magic power to materialize in this world. Declare. You are beneath me, and I entrust my fate to your sword. Follow the call of the Holy Grail. If you follow this will and the laws of heaven, you will answer immediately. Chanting such a mantra, you felt for the first time the power and will of this world. It was a tragic power that was completely different from Orario. If the power of Orario's adventurers is joyful and full of hope, then the power of this world gives you feelings of sadness and pain. Because Orario's power is a gift from the gods, and in this world, this power is obtained by unsatisfied mortals who break taboos. Therefore, if you want to use such power, you must bear it and make corresponding awareness. Yayu's face was slightly distorted. The feeling of magic surrounding his body was something that no magician could escape. It was the chill and pain caused by the circulatory movement of the magic circuits in his body. Yayu gritted his teeth and endured while continuing to chant the spell. I swear here. I will do good in the world and eliminate all evil in the world. Yayu's vision dimmed. A sharp tingling sensation came from the back of Yayu's hand, and the shapeless command spell that was originally located on the back of his hand began to slowly deform. With a six-pointed star as its base, it twists and spirals like a snake. And now there are bloody wings torn open on both sides of the snake. In a daze, Yayu seemed to hear the pleasant sound of wind chimes and the sound of a girl laughing. Has the summoning been successful? Yayu didn't know. He was just like a machine that had lost its self-awareness, and continued to recite the spell stiffly. Take care of yourself. A strange picture flashed before his eyes, and Yayu seemed to see a golden voice full of majesty in a trance, listening to her say such words. But Yayu, who had no time to worry about this, gritted his teeth and recited the last part of the spell. The spirit of speech that surrounds you is from the will of suppression, the guardian of the scales. With these words as the end of his prayer, Yayu felt that the magic power flowing in his body had accelerated to the limit. Lightning thundered, and the wind and clouds rolled. Amidst the wind pressure that could not even open his eyes, the summoned pattern shone brilliantly. Summoned, what? Iris Veal couldn't help but widen her eyes and looked there. The circuits in the magic circle were connected to the otherworldly places. From the blinding light that was constantly overflowing, a bright red standing figure appeared. In this way, their long-cherished wish finally reached them. Coming from the other side, coming here, whirlwind and lightning wrap around the legendary phantom. Originally a human being, he has escaped from the human realm. He was promoted to the genus of elves with inhuman divine power. Those places where extraordinary primates gather, from the throne of suppressed divine power, heroic spirits woven by countless people's dreams descended on the earth at the same time. Then, is this the servant I summoned? Looking at the young girl swaying her legs sitting on the high altar, Yayu looked confused. Indeed, there is nothing wrong with that. Iris Veal, who was now the mother of 2 children, nodded with some difficulty, and looked at the girl sitting on the altar with some surprise like Yayu. Obviously, the girl in front of them was summoned by the heroic spirit, and judging from the girl's appearance, she was at most about the same age as Yaying and Ilya. At this moment, the girl was playing with the scepter in her hand, which was exactly what Yayu used to summon her. Seemingly sensing that Yayu and Iris Veal were staring at her, the girl showed a naughty smile and spoke slowly. Are you the master? Ah, I just. Yayu answered subconsciously, feeling the tingling pain on the back of his hand, and immediately established an inexplicable connection with the girl in front of him. It seems, she is indeed his servant, and there is nothing wrong with her. The command spell cannot lie. Then, let's take Fran to play. Just when Yayu was looking at the back of his hand in a daze, the girl on the altar said this, and then jumped down from the high altar. Why? Iris Veal subconsciously exclaimed, and Yayu on the other side had already hugged the girl who jumped down. Although this girl is a servant summoned by Yayu, because of her similar body shape to Yaying and Ilya, every move she makes touches the hearts of Yayu and Iris Veal. In their opinion, this girl is just a child who has not grown up. Well, Fran isn't that fragile. Master doesn't need to be so nervous. Although the girl said this, she still narrowed her eyes happily at Yayu's subconscious move to hug her. Fran is your name. That's right, Flandre Scarlet, the second in line of succession to the Scarlet family, has arrived with the rank of Berserker. Hereby, a contract between you and me is established. Hearing Yayu's question, Flandre jumped out of his arms. The girl twisted the corners of her skirt with both hands and bowed slightly to Yayu and Irisveal in a very ladylike manner. Hey, you are a berserker, how is this possible? Irisveal stared at Flandre in surprise. Most of the servants who came as berserkers were very powerful, but unfortunately they had no brains. They only knew how to follow the master's orders and attack without thinking. Moreover, Berserker is also very easy to lose control and disobey commands. At this time, the only way to suppress his violent transformation is to use the command spell. It can be said that if the servant Berserker is used well, he will be invincible, but if used poorly, it will backfire on himself. But the girl in front of her who calls herself Flandre is obviously mentally sound and can talk to them freely. How could she be a crazy Berserker? The Ultimate Lich King. Author, BasedonanAnime. Chapter 104. When heroic spirits come as servants, a lot of knowledge about current society will automatically appear in their minds, allowing them to clearly know what kind of world this is and what they need to do. So Flandre knew what Irisveal was wondering about at the first moment. The girl smiled slightly and immediately began to explain. Well, it's true that I came as a berserker class, because this class is the most suitable class for me. But because my destructive power is too strong, I was killed by that golden young lady. He has sealed part of his strength so that he can remain rational. Flandre said with a very happy smile. Thank you for all this, Master. If you hadn't summoned me, I might never have been able to understand what rational thinking is like, right? Although Flandre was smiling, Yayu felt an unparalleled sadness in the girl's smile, which made Yayu couldn't help but ask. Have you always been in a state of madness? Ah, more or less, I've been crazy for hundreds of years and caused a lot of trouble to my sisters and the others. It's a pity that I can only maintain a certain rationality in this world as a heroic spirit, and I still can't say sorry to my sisters and the others. Flandre said with emotion on her face, but soon the disappointment on the girl's face disappeared and returned to a sweet smile again. But I actually have the opportunity to come to the outside world. I must have a good time. How many, hundreds of years? Flandre said so self-consciously, but Yayu and Irisveal were frightened by such an adjective in her words. That's right. Don't think of someone else as a child just because they look small. I'm a vampire. Seeing Yayu and Irisveal in a daze, Flandre grinned at them very cutely. But Flandre didn't feel proud for long, as there was an extra hand on her head. Yayu mumbled while rubbing her little head. A child is a child. No matter who you are, in my opinion you are just like a child like my daughter. I have already said that I am not a child, Master. I am old enough to be your grandma. Let's go and take you to meet my two daughters. You will definitely like them. Why should I like little brats? Flandre said unconvinced, but she was still forcefully dragged out of the chapel by Yayu. Irisveal followed behind and looked at the two people having an awkward moment with some amusement, feeling as if they were seeing Ilya and Yayu having an awkward moment. As soon as they walked out of the chapel, Yayu and Irisveal met Hayed. This old man has been waiting outside for a long time. He is definitely the most anxious person about what kind of servant Yayu can summon. Is this the servant you summoned? Looking at the girl who was being dragged forward reluctantly by Yayu, Hayed had a look of disappointment on his face. A female hero, or a female hero at such a young age, Hayed could not find a suitable match in his memory. If it weren't for those famous heroes, then the strength would undoubtedly be much worse. That's it, that's all. Sighing like this, Hayed turned around and left. What does this old man mean? Flandra asked in confusion as she stared at Hayed, who changed his attitude so quickly with some surprise. Maybe I think you are just a little girl and too weak, so you are very disappointed. Yayu shrugged and said this, while Flandal curled her lips with some disdain. TCH, short-sighted old man, what does he know? In any case, the summoning of heroic spirits has ended. Regardless of joy or sorrow, whether the summoned servants are strong or weak, the Holy Grail War is about to officially begin. The last city of Einsburn, sealed by ice. The ancient city used by ancient magicians to secretly preserve their lifeblood was located in a deserted mountain. On that day, I was liberated from the wind and snow for a long time. Although the sky was not clear, the milky white sky was much brighter than on a snowy day. In the winterland, where there are neither birds with wings nor green grass, only light is abundant. He also said that he was not a child. He and his wife Iris Veal stood in front of the windowsill and looked down. Below were three little figures playing together. Yeah, you said something funny. Yeah, Ying, Ilya, who have been here for almost a year, and Flandra, who just arrived as a heroic spirit yesterday. The three girls were having a snowball fight in the snow. They seemed to be working on their own, but during the fight, sisters Ya Ying and Ilya joined forces to fight against each other. She must have been timid when she first came to Einsburn a year ago, but now Sakura has once again regained the innocence and romance that a girl of this age should have, and she gets along very well with Ilya. And Ilya, who had been lonely for a long time, was also very happy to have such a playmate. No more fun, no more fun. You guys are cheating. Two of you will fight one. Not long after, her head was hit by snowballs, Flandra said with a grieved face. Then let's compete. Dad, come down quickly. I'm coming. Listening to his daughter's call, Yayu also showed a rare smile on his face, and then jumped down from the window. Like birds returning to their nests, the two girls approached Yayu and acted coquettishly, while Flandra on the other side pouted her lips unhappily. Humph, little brat. I don't know who was hit with snowballs by two little brats just now and screamed. Seeing Flandro looking so cute, Yayu looked like he wanted to laugh but didn't dare. What is the game? Flandra's majesty did not last long, but she was attracted by the game, Ilya said, and the girl asked curiously. It's just a competition to find sprouting walnut sprouts. I will never lose today. While making such a high-spirited declaration, Ilya walked in front of Yayu, heading towards the forest excitedly, while struggling to step through the thick snow with my small boots. While he was calmly peeping at the surrounding trees, he didn't miss any place or reveal any gaps. The girl is now in a serious competition with her father. Ya Ying on the other side was the same, her little face was full of seriousness, and she got into the woods on the other side. What, a kid's game? Flandra said this, but her eyes still showed a look of longing. In response, Yayu just smiled softly and threw himself into the game with the three girls. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, BasedonanAnime. Chapter 105. I'm so lucky, before the war started, I was able to walk in the city with you, Yayu, just like an ordinary couple. Iris Veal gently touched her hair and said this with a faint smile. For some reason, looking at the smile on Iris Veal's face, all Yayu could feel was endless sadness. Yayu felt that something was wrong very early on. As the time of the Holy Grail War continued to approach, Iris Veal's situation became more and more wrong. If I had to describe it, it would be that I was determined to die. Iris Veal seems to know that she will die in this Holy Grail War, and she shows infinite nostalgia for this world in every aspect. But why is this like this? The war has not officially started yet, so why do you look so determined? Even if the Holy Grail War is lost, yeah, you can confidently escape unscathed. Why does Iris Veal look like this? Just when Yayu was thinking about this key question, Flandra, who had always looked like a well-behaved little girl curiously looking at everything around her, suddenly frowned slightly. At the same time, Iris Veal and Yayu also felt something. An enemy servant. Iris Veal spoke with some uncertainty. In fact, her level as a magician was not very good, but this unbridled magic power was too high profile. It feels like I am deliberately releasing my power to attract other people's attention. Yes, there are two breaths. It seems that the two sides have reached a certain consensus and are moving in a certain direction. The distance is not very far, only about a few hundred meters away. It seems that one servant released his aura first, and then attracted another servant. The two were choosing a venue to start the competition. What to do now, master? After entering the fighting state, Flandra seemed to be a different person. The girl changed her innocent impression not long ago, and asked Yayu indifferently. Follow me and take a look. Maybe you can gain something. Yayu said this, Flandra nodded, and immediately the group rushed towards the place where the two auras were heading. Fuyuki City, night, port. A man and a woman were facing each other in the dark. When Yayu, Flandro, and Iris Veal came here following the breath, what they saw was a picture like this. I'm finally here. I've been waiting for a long time, but no one dares to come here, the only one who responds to me is you. The male servant holding the gun said with a chuckle. The two guns in his hand were wrapped and entangled from the handle to the blade by a kind of charm-like cloth, making their true colors invisible. It was probably a countermeasure devised to hide the true name of the noble phantasm. There is no doubt that the servant who boldly releases his aura and attracts everyone is Lancer. Lancer's heroic spirit praised in a low but clear voice. He did not assume a fighting posture, but asked questions to the woman standing in front of him with a calm expression. A rather fierce fighting spirit, I think you are Saber, am I right? Yes. You are Lancer. Exactly, I didn't expect that before a fight to the death, I could introduce myself to my opponent in such a normal way. But I couldn't help myself. Saber agreed with this sentence, and her cold expression softened slightly. Come down. There's nothing we can do about it. This is not what we are fighting for, our honor. You should have given the gun in your hand to your master. That's right, he didn't look like a man who was about to risk his life in battle at all. Instead, he smiled with a relaxed expression. Then, let's get started. Lancer lifted the long spear on his shoulder and twisted his backhand into a fighting stance. He also slowly raised the short gun with his left hand. The two guns were spread out and waved like wings. This was a fighting posture that had never been seen before. Saber also released the surging fighting spirit. The burst of magic stirred up a whirlwind-like airflow in the air, and the airflow enveloped the girl's petite body. In an instant, her whole body was wrapped in silver armor, and the magic turned into armor and gauntlets. And this is the true face of this Night King. The battle between the two servants was about to break out, but what worried Yayu was that neither side saw the master. Is this girl King Arthur? The servant summoned by the holy relic that originally belonged to our Einsborn. After confirming Saber's identity, Iris Veal exclaimed in a low voice. It seems like she is right, but why is it a girl? Yayu was a little hard to understand, and he couldn't accept that the famous King Arthur was actually a girl. He was chatting with Iris Veal, while Flandra looked at the two servants confronting each other with interest, with an inquiring look on her face. What do you think of their strength, Flandra? Seeing Flandal's appearance, Yayu asked curiously. Are they idiots? Why do they talk so much nonsense before starting a fight? Can't they just attack directly? Because they were once great heroes. They might not bother to do such things. Even if they fight, they will duel like knights. But that's stupid. After Iris Veal said this, Yayu also added. This is the Holy Grail War, not a hero game. Victory is the first goal, and everything else is arbitrary. Yayu said this, and Flandal on the side seemed to agree with her master's words and nodded slightly. The battle between servants is no longer important. What I'm more worried about now is Emi Yakiritsugu, what this man will do. Yeah, you said this with a somewhat serious expression. Perhaps he is lying in ambush around here waiting for the masters of other servants to show up. This man is a ruthless guy who can do anything. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai. Chapter 106. The battle between Saber and Lancer below has reached a fever pitch. Just relying on the collision of cold weapons, the two almost destroyed an entire street. Game over. Lancer. The sudden sound made Saber raise her head, trying to find the owner of the sound. Lancer's master. Iris Veal looked around, but found no one. Because the sound came so suddenly, I didn't even have time to judge whether it was a man or a woman or where it came from. It seemed that the other party was also very vigilant and did not let his position be exposed. Don't waste any more time. That Saber is very difficult to deal with, so I allow you to use your noble phantasm to defeat her quickly. Saber couldn't help but be disturbed by his words. Noble phantasm, finally, Lancer's master urged him to use his strongest skill. Understood. My master. Lancer suddenly responded with a respectful tone, and at the same time he changed his posture. He casually threw the short gun in his left hand at his feet. Then, that spear belongs to Lancer, in front of Saber's eyes. The long and gun charms in Lancer's right hand were slowly unlocked. It was a dark red gun. The gun blade was wrapped around with a completely different magic power than before, like an ominous mirage. That's it? Go up and kill her. Lancer grabbed it with both hands. He let out a series of low roars. It's really a cheap method. I thought they would really follow the principles of chivalry. Stupidly. Yayu, who saw the scene on the high container, had a somewhat funny look on his face. What's wrong? Iris Veal on the side asked with some confusion. Perhaps the silly-looking Saber has easily believed what Lancer said, but would a real warrior throw away his weapon casually on the battlefield? If the weapon itself has no meaning to him, then why bring it to the battlefield? Yayu explained. And, the most important thing is that there is a very powerful magic wave on that weapon. Obviously it is also a treasure. Yayu's words just finished. You made a mistake. Lancer's proud voice sounded from below. Lancer kicked up the sand under his feet with his legs, but what flew into the air was not the sand, but the short gun that Lancer had just thrown away. The blade was facing the direction Saber was flying from. The talisman on the short spear has also been unlocked. The golden gun body appears under the spell. The golden gun body rolled up into a whirlwind, and two figures passed each other. The flying red blood flowers bloomed brightly, and then disappeared in an instant. She was really careless. Looking at her bloody wrist, Saber frowned without a trace and took a few steps back. What should we do now? Should we retreat for now? Mia didn't know where she ran away. She obviously tried her best to resist the challenge at first. Thinking of this, Saber couldn't help but sigh helplessly. Participating in this Holy Grail war with full confidence, if the person who makes Saber feel helpless and dissatisfied the most is probably her master, right? The master who summoned him actually didn't even say a word to him from beginning to end, and directly left himself to his assistant, Kuumya. Moreover, the Matu family, where the Holy Grail war is based, also made Saber feel very uncomfortable, especially the master's father, a man named Matuzukan, who really gave Saber the urge to cut him into pieces. Saber never thought that in order to survive, there would be such twisted people in this world. Perhaps it is no longer correct to call a monster like that a human being. On the other side, looking at Saber's embarrassed look, Lancer spoke with a proud look on his face. There is no need to waste your efforts. If you are stabbed by my noble phantasm, the indestructible yellow rose, the wound will never be healed. I understand, this is a gun with a spell attached. Once stabbed by it, the wound will never heal. I should have noticed this earlier. The red spear that cuts off magic, the yellow spear that curses. Coupled with the charming mole under the left eye, it is easy to determine when these factors are put together. If we look at it from a legend, the reputation that was recited in Celtic heroic legends is even somewhat related to the legend of King Arthur. But Saber herself didn't think of this, which is indeed a bit incredible. The Knights of Fiona, the first warrior, the majestic Dire Muid. I didn't expect that the Holy Grail would give you the honor of participating. This is the wonder of the Holy Grail War. But I am the one who is praised by everyone. Those who travel through time and space and are invited to participate in the Seat of Heroes will not mistake your golden sword. The servant who participated in the Fourth Holy Grail War, Lancer, the heroic spirit of the Celtics, Dire Muid Odina. As expected of King Arthur, he actually determined the identity of the other party through such a small amount of information. Dire Muid Odina. Yeah, you muttered, he was not particularly impressed by this name. But even if you know it, it's of no use, and is this Lancer an idiot too? He actually told the enemy the effect of his noble phantasm so quickly. It is obviously a noble phantasm characteristic that causes headaches for the enemy, but the result is that it is said directly. You are trying to make your master a treasure. Anyway, yeah, you felt that if he were the master of these two guys, he would definitely faint from anger. I don't know about Lancer's master yet, but Saber's master, Emi Yakiritsugu, is really not in a good mood. He was also hiding behind a certain container and watching the battlefield, with Kuumya also by his side. Originally, when he heard Kuumya's report and Saber ignored the dissuasion and challenged others, his expression was already very bad. As for Saber, one of her arms was directly disabled and at least a quarter of her combat effectiveness was lost. Emi Yakiritsugu's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai. Chapter 107. Emi Yakiritsugu was even thinking that even if he didn't have the servant Saber, he might be able to perform better in this Holy Grail battle, right? Now, because of Saber's own initiative, the situation has fallen into a passive state. It is not fun to expose one's true identity on the first night of the Holy Grail War. Now, what should we do? Kuumya, who was next to Emi Yakiritsugu, asked with a worried look on his face. You go and let Saber prepare to retreat, and I'll see if there's any chance of finding any trace of Lancer's master, Emi Yakiritsugu said coldly as he continued to focus on the sniper scope. No matter how powerful a magician is, there is a possibility that he will be easily sniped by him if he is careless. As a magician killer, Emi Yakiritsugu has this confidence. The cold, clear, and tense air spread between the two people, and at this moment, it was suddenly cut through by a thunderous sound. Huh, yeah, you was stunned, and immediately turned his gaze to the sky, where he saw a flying object crossing a straight line in the sky, heading straight for the side, and scattering purple lightning sparks in the night sky. There is no doubt that the sound must be from it. Iris Veal was stunned and opened her mouth in surprise. Chariot. Both sides put away their weapons. In front of this king, the menacing shouts were like thunder. The burly man stood in the chariot, looked around, and then introduced himself aggressively. My name is Iskandar the Conqueror. I participated in this Holy Grail War and obtained the rank of rider. What are you thinking about, idiot? A hysterical voice sounded from beside the strong man. A young man who was about to cry grabbed the King of Conqueror's coat with a look on his face that was about to go crazy. What's going on? Seeing the master and servant fighting together, everyone present couldn't help but feel ashamed. It's troublesome. Fighting in an upright and honorable manner is what a hero does, Ryder said matter-of-factly as he knocked back his master with a snap of his fingers. Saber and Lancer, I am moved by your courage in such an upright battle. How about joining my army and giving me the Holy Grail? I will share the joy of conquering the world with you, Rider. He spoke to himself, as if the two heroic spirits in front of him had surrendered to him. Is this guy an idiot? On the other side of the pier, Emi Yakiritsugu, who was observing the battlefield with a sniper rifle, was thinking feebly in his heart. He finally met a servant who was even more unreliable than his own saber. Kiritsugu, something is wrong. Look at the crane over there. And underneath the crane, Mia's voice rang out. This is, assassin, how could it be possible that he shouldn't be eliminated? Looking at the figure wearing a white skull mask on the crane, Emi Yakiritsugu was surprised. Can you see two people there, a group of master and servant? Because of the angle, Emi Yakiritsugu did not see Flandra, only Yayu and Iris Veal standing there. There. But even so, this situation is enough to make people anxious. Sure enough, the battle between Saber and Lancer attracted the attention of many people, and now it seems that the situation is getting more and more serious. Damn. Emi Yakiritsugu gritted his teeth, but he could only wait and see what happened, because he couldn't do anything now. After the Conqueror King finished speaking these words below, Saber and Lancer were stunned for a long time in the confrontation. Did you hinder my duel with the knight just to state those jokes? Immediately, the two servants who were fighting to the death not long ago stared at the unexpected King of Conqueror with unkind eyes, with undisguised hostility in their eyes. Are you going to negotiate terms with me? Cut the nonsense. It felt like Ryder was about to say flattering words, but Lancer and Saber refused in unison. Saber continued with a disappointed look on her face. Say it again. I am also the king of a country in charge of the Kingdom of Britain. No matter what kind of king he is, he cannot bow his head to others. Oh? The King of Britain? Ryder raised his eyebrows, perhaps interested in Saber's declaration. This is so surprising to me. The world-renowned King of Knights is actually a little girl. Then try to eat this little girl in your mouth with a sword, King of Conquerors. Saber lowered her voice and raised her sword. His left hand was still unable to hold the sword, and the four fingers of his left hand were just holding onto the hilt, but the fighting spirit rising from the shaking of the sword was even more solemn than when he was fighting Lancer. Ryder frowned and sighed. Then our negotiations broke down. It's such a pity. It's such a pity. It would be strange if it could succeed. You idiot. 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 The sound of his master's almost collapse sounded at his feet, and Ryder touched his head in embarrassment. Although I know that there is a high possibility of failure, there is a saying, there is no better way to talk than to try. There's no better way to talk than to give it a try. Could this be your real name? The boy cried, clenching his fists and beating Ryder's chain armor while shouting. Because of Ryder's master's funny behavior, the tense air relaxed wonderfully. Really? Is that so? But because of this sudden complaint that was so low that it was close to the ground, it solidified again. The expression of the young man who heard this voice suddenly froze, and soon turned into a look of fear. This sudden voice seems to be Lancer's master? Yayu and Iris Veal looked at each other. Have you finally exposed yourself, Mia? Can you determine the direction of the sound? Emi Yakiritsugu turned the muzzle of his gun and asked Mia on the other side. No, although the general direction was determined, he was well hidden and unable to make a direct attack. Mia's calm voice came from the earphones. Continue to observe assassin, and the other group of masters and servants over there. Emi Yakiritsugu made the decision, and now he can only wait and see what happens. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, BasedonanAnime. Chapter 108. Just when the situation on the dock was once again in a stalemate, and the rider's master was crying and fussing, a cold voice suddenly sounded. Why did you go crazy and steal my relics? If you think about it carefully, maybe it's because you want to participate in the Holy Grail War. Mr. Weber Velvet. the boy heard someone calling his name viciously. Know that the object of hatred is yourself. Not only that, Weber might be able to guess the owner of that voice. That. What a pity. I wanted to make this lovely student happy. Weber, a mortal like you should have a stable life that only belongs to mortals. The owner of that voice had keen eyesight and saw the frozen fear on Weber's face. He continued in a creepy and cold teasing voice, as if toying with Weber. There's nothing I can do about it, Weber-kun. I'll give you extracurricular tutoring. The true meaning of magicians killing each other, the horror and pain of killing, I will give you without reservation. You feel it is very honorable. Weber had no time to estimate the vicious ridicule in his words. Deep fear struck his heart. This was not a game. At this moment, he was really involved in the fighting called the Holy Grail War. This is a bloody fight between magicians and magicians. At this time, something gently but powerfully hugged the young boy's young shoulders that were shaking alone due to fear. Weber panicked at the thick yet gentle feeling. The hands of the burly servant, with 5 rough and separated fingers, can only be an object of fear to the short master. Hey magician, from what I've seen, you seem to want to replace my little master and become my master, Ryder asked Lancer's master, who was hiding somewhere. In fact, his face was filled with a malicious and pitiful smile, causing his face to smile crookedly. It's really ridiculous if this is really the case. The man who becomes my master should be a warrior who rides on the battlefield with me, not a coward who dares not even show his face. Silence fell, and only the anger of the missing master spread in the night air. Ryder suddenly burst out laughing, this time facing the empty night sky, laughing at the top of his lungs. Come out. There may be others. They are hiding in the darkness and peeking at our accomplices. Both Saber and Lancer looked surprised. What's wrong with you? Ryder facing Saber, who asked him, the conqueror gave a thumbs up with a smile on his face. Saber and Lancer, it's really amazing that you are fighting face to face. The swords and halberds made such a clear clashing sound, I'm afraid more than one heroic spirit was attracted. Raising his hands high, Ryder seemed to want to send a deafening sound to every corner around him, and shouted again. Poor. So pitiful. The heroes gathered in Fuyuki. Don't you have any feelings when you see the courage shown by Saber and Lancer here? They have real names worth boasting, but they secretly keep peeking here. How cowardly. The heroic spirits will also panic when they hear this, huh? After laughing loudly, Ryder tilted his head slightly, showing a fearless expression, and finally looked around with provocative eyes. Heroic spirits invited to the Holy Grail War, gather here now. Cowards who are afraid of even showing up, please wake up to me before Iskandar, the conqueror, insults you. This conqueror king is really an interesting character. Seeing everything that happened, while Irisveal was still surprised, Yayu on the side laughed softly. He also added some knowledge about the history of this world, and he could tell more or less the heroic deeds of the 3 servants currently appearing. Although his words are not very polite, such a character is still not disgusting. However, it seems miraculous that a guy like this can rule half of the world. This kind of stupid and green character is only suitable for being a general, and definitely not a king. What should we do now? The other party has sent out an invitation, Yayu asked, looking at Flandre beside him. From a rational point of view, it is not a good choice to stand up rashly now, but if the king of Conqueror makes a mockery like this, he still has to worry about Flandre's thoughts. Idiots like this, really can't get excited. Fran originally thought she could have a good time. Biting her finger cutely, Flandre didn't seem to be in high spirits. But before Flandre could make a decision, a servant couldn't bear it and stood up. Below, golden light flashed, like the arrival of a majestic king. Someone is here again, it seems they are all here, Yayu sighed as he looked at the sudden light. This is the first day of the Holy Grail War, and there are already 4 servants standing here. At the top of the street light bulb about 10 meters above the ground, a figure wearing golden shining armor appeared. Weber couldn't help but hold his breath when he saw his dazzling and great face. That person is. Although I had only seen him for a brief moment before, he was a figure who left such a strong impression on me. Weber couldn't be wrong. Standing leisurely on the tall street lamp must be the mysterious servant who used overwhelming destructive power to kill the assassin who invaded the Tosaka residence last night. There is no way that heavy equipment that is not covered by armor can be a master. And if he appears in response to Ryder's call, it proves that he only has the judgment to regard Ryder's arrogant words as a provocation, and even he cannot be a violent berserker. In this way, only Archer, the last member of the three knights, remain through the process of elimination. There are two people who don't take me seriously and call themselves kings without knowing how high the sky is. Two people emerged overnight as soon as he opened his mouth. The golden heroic spirit curled his lips in great displeasure, showing his disapproval of the current confrontation. The contempt of the three servants. Although Archer's proud attitude and tone are exactly the same as Ryder's arrogance, they are fundamentally different. The conqueror's voice and eyes were not as cold and ruthless as Archer's. Ryder didn't seem to expect that someone with a tougher attitude than him would appear. He was quite flustered and scratched his chin in confusion. Even if you say something rude, I, Iskandar, am still a famous conqueror in the world. I am the only hero who can truly be called a king. The rest are just bastards. Archer simply made a declaration that was more than an insult. At this time, even Saber was surprised that the ground was deserted, but Ryder looked at it with tolerance, was a little surprised and sighed. For this reason, how about you tell me your name first? If you are also a king, you won't be afraid of your own reputation, right? Ryder made such a joke, Archer's red eyes became more and more arrogant and angry, staring at the giant man in front of him. Are you asking me? Are you asking me, the bastard? According to common sense, it makes sense for Ryder to ask Archer's real name, but from Archer's point of view, this seems to be a great disrespect to him. He was obviously an archer, but he was as crazy as a berserker. After he finished speaking, he revealed a terrifying murderous intention. Well, here comes another guy who doesn't look very normal. Yeah, you shrugged. Flandal on the side nodded slightly, and then made an analysis. Saber, the Night King of Britain who looks very innocent, a lancer who talks about chivalry but secretly does evil things, a conquering King Ryder who seems to have a brain problem, and the last one who looks like a mad dog bites everyone on sight. The King of. After thoroughly analyzing the four heroic spirits on the field at this moment, Flandre shrugged helplessly. Is this the opponent of the Holy Grail War? It's totally uninspiring. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai. Chapter 109. After all the servants appeared, Flandre quickly analyzed them all. A few concise and clear comments completely describe the character and characteristics of the servant who appeared. If a servant like a caster said this, it might not be strange, but if a servant like a berserker said this, it would be a bit strange. In other words, it's incredible. The first impression a normal person would have after seeing Flandre is caster, and they would never think of berserker. Although this is only a small detail, it may lead to decisive success or failure. Because normally in every Holy Grail war, caster is a servant who is not very powerful in frontal combat. What casters are good at is positional warfare. They can create powerful magic items. Under normal circumstances, casters will stick to their own position. If you fight him on the position, he is a relatively difficult servant. However, in a head-on battle, caster is definitely the weakest, even worse than the assassins. Want to go out? The golden heroic spirit on the other side seemed to have a bad temper and looked like he wanted to take action. At this time, Yayu once again asked Flandre beside him. Well, no matter what, that stupid guy's words were an insult to me. Such arrogant words, as someone with the noble scarlet red flowing through my body, I will not pretend that I didn't hear them. Flandre said this, grinning softly. At this moment, this seemingly petite girl finally showed the madness that a berserker should have. Let's go, it's time for our Einsborn to show up. Gently stopping Irisveel's waist, Yayu said with a chuckle, and then jumped off the tall container. Hey! The sudden action caused Irisveel to let out a very cute scream. This scream that cut through the night sky also attracted the attention of everyone present in an instant. Who dares to interrupt me? The golden heroic spirit archer, who was targeting Conqueror King Ryder just a second ago, suddenly frowned and his eyes fell on Yayu and Irisveel. The moment Yayu landed on the ground, the already cold night was filled with a chill, which even made several heroic spirits present feel a little uncomfortable. The servants present immediately became alert. At this time, the careless entrance was undoubtedly the combination of servant and master. All attention was focused on Yayu, because he had the strongest magic power fluctuations and was the most likely fifth servant. Except for Assassin who has been dealt with, the only servants who have not yet appeared are Berserker and Caster. Looking at such strong magic power fluctuations, the opponent should only be Caster, and definitely not Berserker. Since he was not a Berserker, there was room for negotiation, and Ryder suddenly showed a generous smile. Weber, who was sitting next to him, looked at his servant and immediately realized what he wanted to do, covering his face with a look of collapse. Oh, this is a hero from somewhere. Are you interested in joining my army as the conquering king? Ryder sent out the invitation again as expected. Even Saber and Lancer standing behind him looked speechless. Is this guy really coming to participate in the Holy Grail war with his brains? He just invites people when he sees them. Shut up and interrupt me again and again. You bastards are too presumptuous. Before Yayu had time to answer, Flandre, who had followed him down and was ignored, also curled her lips, and was interrupted just as she was about to speak. Everyone's attention once again shifted to the golden heroic spirit archer. I have to say that this guy was in a very good fighting position. He was standing on the street lamp, looking down at everyone from above. You dare to see the glory of this king and ignore me again and again. Do you ignorant people want to taste the taste of death? After Archer made this assertion, a strange flame-like aura slowly rose from his left and right sides, and in the next moment, the knife suddenly appeared in the empty sky with a dazzling light. The unsheathed sword and the gun. They are all dazzlingly decorated and emit magic that cannot be hidden. It's obviously not an ordinary weapon, it can only be a noble phantasm. There is no doubt that this is the attack weapon that killed the assassin to death last night. Those who watched the battle in Tosaka Prefecture last night recognized these weapons. Waver was scared, and Lancer's invisible master also held his breath. Kiritsugu and Mia, who were watching from a distance, were also tense. Yayu narrowed his eyes slightly. This golden heroic spirit was not pretentious or alarmist. What he said was definitely not arrogant. He definitely had the strength to kill everyone present. It seems that this golden heroic spirit will be the most powerful opponent in this Holy Grail war, but whose servant will he be? Is it the Tosaka family or the Matu family? Yayu was thinking about this problem, and Flandre standing next to him finally found a chance to speak. Did I say you are all idiots? Can't you even tell who a servant is? Especially you, you stupid big guy, you even invited the wrong one, and you street lamp king, stand so high and be careful not to fall. Come down. Lamp king. I will cut you into pieces to satisfy the hatred in my heart. Bastard. The golden heroic spirit, whose handsome face was distorted by Flandre's joke, let out an angry roar, and immediately the swords and spears floating around Archer changed the direction of their attack. The direction that the sword and spear points pointed was Flandra, the top priority target. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 110. The title Street Lamp King indeed caused everyone present to burst into uproar, and Ryder almost couldn't help laughing. But soon, they could no longer laugh. The terrifying murderous aura swept through everyone's bodies and minds. As an ordinary person, Weber was the first to stand among so many servants and couldn't bear the pressure. He was embarrassed. Fell into the carriage. Just die pathetically like this. Maybe such a miserable situation will please me. Archer narrowed his scarlet eyes, and with the cold declaration, his gun and sword flew through the air. He fired the weapon that appeared out of nowhere without even touching it. This is why he is called the Golden Shooter. But it is very unusual to use a noble phantasm so carelessly. To a heroic spirit, a noble phantasm is its own child, so throwing such an important noble phantasm recklessly like a stone is a very careless throw. Still, the damage was huge. The road surface blew up, as if a bomb had exploded, and the asphalt turned into dust and flew everywhere, covering all sight. Everyone held their breath. But the girl who called herself servant did not make any move. The one who resisted Archer's attack was the master standing in front of her. Yayu raised one hand in front of him, and the crystal ice shield quickly condensed into shape. Archer shot out 4 noble phantasms, 2 of which bombarded the ground like missiles, while the other 2 pierced straight into the ice shield suspended in front of Yayu. There was a dull collision sound, and the fragments of frost and dust were mixed together, and Archer's face became even more ugly. After talking so many big words and attacking with such momentum, it resulted in no results at all. You can imagine how embarrassed he was. Yayu looked at the ice shield in front of him. The cracks were all over the surface. Although it had not broken yet, it was very reluctant to block the blow. It looks like I'm looking down on you. It's a bit interesting, but it's just the ridiculous struggles and cries of a weakling. Archer spoke again with murderous intent, and immediately the surroundings of his body shone with light again, and around his majestic face, a new group of noble phantasms suddenly appeared behind him, 16 in total. It's not just guns and swords. And the axe. There are mallets and spears. There are also some strange weapons whose purpose and nature are unknown. All the noble phantasms are polished as bright as mirrors, and are filled with huge magic power. Each noble phantasm embodies an unparalleled sense of mystery. These are true noble phantasms. That fool. Weber said this accidentally. The other heroic spirits and masters probably have the same idea. There is not just one noble phantasm of the heroic spirit. Some heroic spirits also secretly hide 3 or 4 super weapons that are as powerful as noble phantasms. But no matter how many noble phantasms you have, there is a limit. Once the Golden Archer uses the noble phantasm, it is like endless equipment, released one by one and used all at once. And since the battle with the assassin last night, he has never used the same noble phantasm. If you can still stop it, let me see how many of my noble phantasms it can withstand. Archer gave an order, and the group of noble phantasms floating in the void rushed to kill Yayu. The roar shook the night air, and the flashes of continuous explosions seemed to sweep away the entire night sky. These noble phantasms produced so much destructive power that it was hard to believe that they were just throwing weapons like swords. This time, Yayu felt full of pressure. Perhaps if he was alone, he would have the confidence to escape Archer's bombardment, but he still held Iris Veil in his arms. At this moment, Flandrero stepped forward. In front of everyone, this petite girl blocked the noble phantasm that was approaching like a carpet bomb. Seeing this scene, both Saber and Ryder couldn't bear it. Although they knew that this little girl was a servant, they still couldn't change the fact that she was a child. But Archer showed no mercy at all, and his onslaught had not stopped yet. The noble phantasm fell like thunder, and its momentum seemed to blow up Yayu's location and even the entire neighborhood. The attacks did not stop, but gradually became more and more intense. Everyone was stunned with surprise. Everyone recognized that they were in a tense confrontation with many enemies and had a sense of imminent crisis. However, the scene at this time was indeed unexpected by everyone. The petite girl waved her staff like noble phantasm amid the carpet bombing, blocking the flying noble phantasms one after another. Is this really something a caster can do? The other heroic spirits thought this way. Even if they might be able to escape from Archer's carpet bombing, it would still take a little courage and skill to stand there and counter-attack the thrown noble phantasms one by one. The most important thing is that the one who is doing this in front of them now is caster, who has always been weak in frontal combat capabilities. Both the offense and defense went above and beyond. If you think about it carefully, the Golden Archer and the Girl Caster are different from the other three. They are still unknown heroes, enigmatic spirits. Both Saber and Lancer shuddered at the threat the two of them posed. If you continue to advance in the Holy Grail War, you may encounter these two men. Not much is known about these two, so how should Saber and Lancer deal with them? That Golden Archer seems to be very proud of owning so many noble phantasms. But now that a little girl has knocked away the noble phantasm so easily, such an arrogant guy must have gone crazy with anger. Bar. While the two servants, Saber and Lancer, were speechless in surprise, Ryder seemed to be on his own, whispering triumphantly. And this little girl is still the weakest caster. Are you looking down on women, Ryder? Saber interrupted Ryder's words. She seemed to still be brooding over Ryder's initial words about her being a little girl.